What up, everybody? Good morning and a happy Thursday to you all. DK Show coming to you from the TDS Sports Talk Studios this morning. A big thanks for tuning in, whether it's on the radio dials. Got a couple of those, 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online at sportstalk1051.com. Stream it up over there. Download the app. Take it on the go. You got your smart devices, smart speakers, and video streams that are also up and rolling on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitch. But a happy Thursday, everybody. What do we got on our good old game plan for us this morning? They got their first series win. Brewers picking up a win in extra innings yesterday afternoon against the Kansas City Royals, thanks to Bryce Terang's walk-off bunt. 3-2 victory for the Brewers. Freddie Peralta was awesome yesterday. Definitely deserves to get the win. Gets no decision, though. But he went 8 strong innings, giving up just 2 hits, 1 earned run, 8 Ks. And again, another game where he did not issue a single walk. So Freddie Peralta giving the Brewers some much-needed depth from a starting pitcher yesterday, and he was pretty dang good. Pretty dang good yesterday. And the Brewers had a couple chances to either end the game a little bit earlier or take the lead a little bit later on in the game and maybe not go to extra innings, but not able to get those runners across the scoring position. I mean, they had runners second and third, nobody out, couldn't get her done, and then bases loaded, and later on in the game couldn't get it done. But luckily, thanks to Bryce Terang's bunt, perfect bunt, beautiful bunt, able to get that W against the Royals and get their first series win. But no off day because they begin a 4-game series now against a division opponent, the Cincinnati Reds, coming to town beginning tonight. And Nestor Cortez is going to get the start for the Brewers, and hopefully will bounce back from his start that he had on Saturday and get that gosh awful taste out of his mouth, and hopefully it'd be a nice performance from Nestor Cortez tonight. But we'll recap last night or yesterday afternoon's W and look ahead to tonight's game. And could there be a veteran pitcher on his way to joining the Brewers? Did Mark Atanasio kind of hint at that yesterday? We'll tell you what he said. He was at Carroll University doing a little chit-chat and may have gave everybody a little bit of a hint of a potential new pitcher, veteran pitcher, coming to the Brewers. So we'll tell you who that is coming up here in just a little bit, or who that potentially is coming up here in just a little bit. So baseball talk throughout the morning. Hoops wise, the Bucks are back at it tonight on the road, taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Thanks to the Pistons losing last night, the Bucks are just a half game behind the Pistons for the 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. So we'll see if the Bucks can pick up that W against 76ers and make things even closer between the Bucks and the Pistons for that 5th spot in the Eastern Conference. But again, starting to wrap up this regular season with the Bucks hitting the road here for the next couple of games. Sitting there 41-34 on the season. They've got 76ers on the road tonight, but then they'll continue to hit the road a little bit. They've got a game against the Pelicans, Miami before that. So Miami on Saturday, then the Pelicans on Sunday. Then home against the Timberwolves and Pelicans at next Tuesday and Thursday. Then wrapping it up next weekend with the home and away against the Pistons. Friday at the Pistons, home Sunday, April 13th against the Pistons. So talk a little hoops as well. Today, 3 weeks from today, will be the first round of the NFL draft. So getting closer. So we'll throw maybe a little football chat into this talk as we are inching closer and closer to that first round of the draft in Green Bay. What is Green Bay going to do? What position? 3 weeks out. What's your gut telling you right now? You don't have to give me a player, but what's your gut telling you right now in terms of what position do you think they're going to get or target in the first round? If you got a player, great, awesome, send it on over to me. But what is your gut telling you 3 weeks out? Doesn't have to be your official prediction, but just kind of where maybe it's kind of trending right now at this point in time. All right. So hit me up with those texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912, or you can hit us up on the video streams or on the various social media outlets. Speaking of hitting me up with some texts, we'll chat with our buddy Jake this morning, Wisconsin DNR Warden Jake Boakes, for our outdoor chats. Reminder, this week also began the new outdoor year, if you will. So new fishing license, got to purchase those if you're going to be heading out on the water, registrations and such. April 1st being that that kind of new year for Wisconsin outdoors. So, but if you have any questions for Jake, you can text those on over to us, and then I'll get those to Jake, and he'll join us around 8:30 this morning to answer any of your questions. And I know we are less than 10 days away. Next weekend, yeah, the 12th and 13th. It's the youth turkey hunt. The kiddos get the first shot, and then it opens it up for everybody else if you have a tag for that weekend. So, I mean, we're less than a couple weeks away from spring turkey hunting season too. So, but if you got any questions maybe surrounding that, that's a good question to ask Jake coming up in a couple of hours. So, we'll hit that up. We'll touch on a few different items as they kind of as we get through this this morning and such. I know we've got Final Four coming up this weekend, but for the women's, the Final Four will begin tomorrow and such. So, but I think it's going to be a fantastic weekend for college basketball, just in my opinion. I mean, I think, for some people, it'll be like, oh, it's too chalky. But I mean, when you look at the matchups, both men's and women's, I think they're fantastic matchups. Friday for women's, we got number 1 Texas taking on number 1 South Carolina. UConn taking on UCLA, 3 1 seeds, 1 2 seed, but the 2 seeds UConn, and you got Paige over there, who, I mean, one of the best basketball players on the planet. And we know the powerhouse of UConn. We know the dominance of South Carolina in the last few years. UCLA making it for the first time. They're a 1 seed. Texas a 1 seed. So, I mean, for crying out loud, you got some good matchups there. And then on the men's side, all 1 seeds, but 1 seeds that have been darn consistent throughout this whole season. And then, SEC, we talk about the depth of that conference all season long. And then what do we get? We get Auburn and Florida, 1 and 2 in the SEC, going at it on Saturday for the right to go to the national championship. That's a fantastic matchup. Then Duke versus Houston. We know the powerhouse of Duke and potential number 1 pick, Cooper Flagg, going up against the best defensive team in the country in Houston. So I think, right, at least on paper, on the surface, it looks like some fantastic matchups. And if you're a sports fan, you're a college basketball fan, hopefully you embrace it and be able to enjoy it. And hopefully the games live up to it too. Hopefully, as just no rooting interest in any of it. I'm just hoping for some good, close, drama-filled games for these Final Four matchups. So, but all right, let's get things going here this morning, shall we? We'll open it up talking some baseball, some Brewers baseball. Brew Crew picking up their first series win of the season after getting swept by the Yankees and dropping their first game against the Royals. They've won their last 2 games and secured that series win. Now begin a 4-game series against a division opponent, the Cincinnati Reds. So we'll hit that up and just talk some baseball in general, too. I mean, you've got the Padres and the Dodgers off to fantastic starts, undefeated. Braves still reeling right now. So, but kind of the first week of the baseball season, right? First week, I know Dodgers and Cubs started a little bit earlier with their Tokyo series, but a week ago today was opening day. So with 1 weekend, doesn't necessarily have to be Brewers, but if it is Brewers or Twins or whoever your favorite team is, What's your first impressions from the first week of the baseball season? All right. Anything kind of really standing out to you? Maybe it is the Dodgers. Maybe it is the Padres. Torpedo bats, although they've been a little bit quieter, so maybe it was more the Brewers pitching at that point. But first week of the baseball season, anything really kind of standing out to you? First impressions and such. Let me know. Hit me up with those texts, okay? We'll take a quick break and get things going here this morning on the leadoff. Coming up after these quick words. Spring is here, which means one thing. It's turkey hunting season. So you've got your tags, you know the dates you're heading out to the woods, but what's missing? It's that new turkey shotgun and maybe some extra shells. So it's time to hit up our good friends at Tilden Gun. Locally owned and operated, Tilden Gun has the best selection of firearms in the area and all at the best prices in the area. Their expert staff will help you find the hunting firearm that you want and that fits your price range. And if you're not a turkey hunter, but you're in the market for a new deer rifle or you want to check out their wall of handguns, they will help you find just what you're looking for. And if you have a little left over from your tax return this season, purchase something for yourself this year because you deserve it. So give them a visit today at tildengun.com or check out their shop located at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. Hey, now the only thing left on your to-do list this turkey season is working on some of your calling skills, whether it's, you use the mouth calls, you got the box call, you got slates or whatever. I'm a box call guy myself. I can't do the mouth ones. I can't do it. I've tried it and I'm jealous of everybody who can do it and they can do it well. I can't do it. So maybe more practice for me, right? So all right, let's get things going here this morning on the leadoff. Brew Crew picking up their first series win after picking up a win yesterday against the Kansas City Royals in extra innings, officially 11 innings, but it was a fantastic performance from Freddie Peralta yesterday and a very, 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 very much needed performance for this pitching staff from the Brewers. But Freddie Peralta went 8 innings, giving up 2 hits, 1 earned run, and striking out 8. No walks. So 2 games so far this season. Freddie Peralta has yet to issue a walk in 13 innings. So no free base runners for him. But Freddie Peralta pitching like that number 1 guy yesterday and putting his team in a position to win. It's just, would have been nice if he would have been able to get credited with the win, but that wasn't the case. And the Brewers, it's Brewers going those extra innings. And what is this? Oh, never mind. All right, got distracted there a little bit. Brewers go those extra innings, and thanks to Bryce Terang with the walk-off bunt. Cool story. I'm sure a lot of you already heard about it before, but when the Royals were talking about the situation, Pat Murphy went up to the on-deck circle and talked a little bit with Bryce Terang and told him, I think, let's try the bunt here. It's going to be a breaking ball. And Terang apparently was already thinking about trying the bunt. And then when Pat Murphy told him the bunt, he's like, all right, let's do it. And it was a beautiful bunt going up the first base line and able to score the winning run for the Brewers. So a little walk-off fashion for the Brewers with that walk-off bunts yesterday. So picking up their second win of the season, 2-4 on the season. And now going up against their first division opponent with the Cincinnati Reds starting tonight in a 4-game series. So just kind of recapping the game from yesterday here quick before we get to the Reds one. I mean, Churio had himself a day with 3 hits, including a couple of RBIs. Jackson Churio with his first home run. That came in the first inning of the game. So he's on the home run board. You had Joey Ortiz at the bottom of the lineup, also collecting a couple of hits. You had 5 of the team's total hits coming from Jackson Churio and Joey Ortiz. But good to see Churio have himself a game. And then even Terang, he's been swinging the bats fairly well so far this season, but was struggling in the beginning part of this game with 3 strikeouts. But got that bunt to go down and still has that average at a 320 so far this season with a 7.73 OPS to begin the season. So good day or good ending, I should say, for Bryce Terang from yesterday. But back to Freddie Peralta too. And I know the question about Freddie Peralta all season long has been, or all off season was like, okay, can he take that next step? Can he take that next step to maybe like be a legit number 1? Because I think, and I'm one of them too, that I was like, okay, is he, when you think of a true number 1, a true number 1 pitcher, a true ace of a pitcher, like Is he quite there yet? And I don't know if I was ready to go there. I wasn't. I wasn't ready to go there. But his first couple games so far this season, Freddie Peralta has been pretty good. I mean, his first game against the Yankees was maybe a little bit more of a typical Freddie Peralta type of performance, giving up a couple of solo shots and kind of deep in those pitch counts and maybe a little bit of a shorter outing with just the 5 innings. I mean, that was kind of a typical normal Freddie Peralta outing that I think a lot of us have seen over the years. But yesterday, I mean, if we get that, and I'm not expecting Freddie Peralta to go 8 innings at every start, but to keep the pitch count down, that was the main thing that I think really jumped out to me. The walks are great, not issuing a walk in 13 innings and that, but for him to keep his pitch count down, to be in that game for as long as he was, that was the thing that really stood out to me yesterday and was really impressive from Freddie Peralta, because if this is something that he could continue to do and keep those pitch counts down. I mean, even just 8 innings, he was at 97 pitches. All right, 97 pitches at 8 innings. If that's something he could continue to do and not get in those deep counts, he'll have a couple innings where he's over 20 pitches, close to 30 pitches in an inning. But if he can keep those down and not get into 3-2 counts and that, then that takes the next step of him potentially being that true number one guy, that true number one starter for this ball club. But tip of the cap to Freddie Peralta doing I mean, that's back-to-back days now, where Chad Patrick the night before, he did, I think, more than what the Brewers were expecting or more than what the Brewers were hoping for, going a little bit deeper in that game, a little over 4 innings. And Freddie Peralta going 8 strong innings where they only used Trevor McGill for an inning, Abner Uribe for an inning, and then Koenig for an inning there too. So not really having to tax that bullpen while they get set for this series against the Reds for tonight, where we have Nestor Cortes on the mound. For tonight, and we'll see if he has a bounce back performance from the Yankees starts from Saturday and such, and then little bullpen starts for the next 3 days over there. But the Brewers may be getting some more help from the pitching department here. Mark Ananasio was doing a little speaking engagement with Carroll College yesterday afternoon. And he made a little bit of a nugget saying that he's been talking with Scott Boras, and that's always kind of been a joke for the last few years, is that if super agent Scott Boras has a pitcher that he needs to have signed, he would always talk to Mark Ananasio, and Mark Ananasio was talking a little bit that he's been talking with Scott Boras about a pitcher. And the quote from Scott Boras, or the quote from Mark Anasio, is Scott Boras, who's a well-known agent who I was talking to yesterday, because Scott might have noticed that we need some pitching, and he had a player, one of his, that he thought we should sign, who's going to throw bullpen for us. Now, he wouldn't say who the player was, but as Kurt Hogg from the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel speculated, possibly could be Spencer Turnbull, a right-hander who spent last season with the Philadelphia Phillies and remains unsigned. Now, if you look at what he did, suffer an injury last year, but in a little over 54 innings that he pitched last season, Turnbull had a 2.65 ERA, struck out 58 batters to 20 walks. He is a 32-year-old pitcher who made 7 starts and had 17 appearances in total last year before having that season-ending lat strain in June. So, again, no indication that that's who the Brewers are potentially going to sign and such. But when you factor in what this Brewers pitching staff has gone through so far and the injuries, it kind of makes sense. And then to top it off, Nestor Cortes, after today's game, he's going to be kind of on daddy watch because his wife is due to deliver their first child in the next couple of weeks. So he potentially could be leaving the team for a little paternity time, depending on when that happens. So it could be where this pitching staff is even a little bit more shorthanded with everything with the Tobias Myers injury. Brandon Woodruff not slated to come back till next month. Hopefully, if everything continues to go well. Aaron Savale being on the injured list, and then Quintana not eligible to come back until the 11th next weekend. So factoring in all of that, that potentially could be a move that the Brewers look at, or maybe it's another bullpen arm like a Joe Kelly who's available out there too, and is also a Scott Boras free agent or Scott Boras client out there. But yeah, that let the speculation begin about who that potential pitcher could be for the Brewers when they maybe make a move. Well, we'll say good morning. Hi, Bob. How are you?
Good morning. Good to be back. And the only thing that scares me about that is, Scott Boras doesn't take on cheap clients. And Atanasio isn't known to pay a lot of money. And so I don't know how those two interact and what kind of dollars they'd be talking about to get Scott Boras clients under a Brewer contract. But they definitely need some arms. There's no question about it. I know when I was gone the last 2 or 3 weeks over to Australia and New Zealand on my phone, I laughed one day. I looked at it and it said, Brewers only down by 2 touchdowns. I'm thinking, things aren't going well for the Brewers. So there had to be some pitching problems. But hopefully, if the last 2 games they're kind of getting it right, and the friendly confines of AmFam Field making them play a little better, and so hopefully, you can't panic 5, 6, 7 games into the season, but they definitely need some arm trouble. It's good to see Freddie Peralta pitch such a great game he pitched, and so that's what they need. They get a few healthy arms, I think they'll be all right.
Tonight, it's Nestor Cortes on the mound, as we mentioned, and just looking a little bit at the pitching matchups. Not a ton of experience with Cortes going up against the Reds lineup. About a game's worth from some of these guys, and kind of the same on the flip side. Brewers are going to be going up against another left-handed pitcher, Nick Lodolo. You're looking at Hoskins has the most experience against him with just 7 at-bats and a career 143. But Nick is 1-0 so far this season with his game against the Giants, where he went 6 innings, giving up just 5 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, and 1 strikeout. Last year, he was 9-6 in 21 games played, 21 starts, with a 4.76 ERA. So, again, another team that is going out there throwing a left-handed starting pitcher against this Brewers lineup, which we know probably that Terang will bat at that bottom spot of the lineup. Cheerio's probably going to hit lead off, and it's something that's kind of already being thrown out there with this Brewers lineup. Are they going to struggle again this year against left-handed pitching? That was a very prominent talking point last year with this Brewers team, how they kind of struggled going up against left-handed pitching, at least in the beginning parts of the season. But it's kind of being thrown out there right now. We'll see if that's going to be the case. Still a little too early to tell here, too. But I think the biggest thing today is going to be how Nestor Cortes bounces back from his first appearance when he went up against his former team, the Yankees, on Saturday, where he only lasted 2 innings and given up 8 earned runs in that contest. Can he bounce back and get that bad taste out of his mouth? And hopefully he could give them a little bit more than just 2 innings coming up today here. But that's going to be the main thing when looking at this game tonight, is going to be what kind of performance are we going to get from Nestor Cortes? Is he going to be able to bounce back? But if he has a similar outing to what he had with the Yankees, where he's given up the first 3 pitches are all 3 solo shots and 4 home runs in the first inning, like he did on Saturday, you're going to have some major questions, even though it's just 2 starts into this thing. But I outside of the win, that's the biggest thing I want to see tonight, is seeing Nestor Cortes coming out and having you can't get much lower than what he did on Saturday.
I was going to say, if he has a worse game than he had the first time out, then the boy's going to be looking for a new job, I would think.
Mm-hmm. So outside of that, you're looking for maybe the offense too, having some success against a left-handed pitcher. And then, of course, you just want to win your division games too. I mean, when you look at this is, Brewers opening up the season with 2 American League teams. Now they're back to some National League play. And if you're looking at the standings in the Central, it's the Cardinals on top, 4-2. Cubbies are 5-4. Brewers 2-4. Same exact record as the Reds, who lost yesterday 1-0 against the Rangers, and then Pittsburgh at 2-5. But you want to win your division games, especially when it's a 4-game series getting played in your own house. So, and then Reds team, obviously, you look at when you look at that team, who do you pay attention to? It's Elly De La Cruz as potentially the big threat within that lineup, both defensively and offensively. Dude made a nice web gem catch yesterday, sliding into foul territory. But that's definitely the guy that, when you look at this lineup, is probably going to get the most attention.
I would think he's going to be in the running for most valuable player in the National League. He's off to a good start. I see the other day he had a couple of home runs, a double drove in 5 or 6 runs, and he just keeps getting better and better and better. I mean, the kid is just a natural athlete, and he's getting better at baseball all the time, and he is a good one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we'll that's that. I'm trying to bring up his numbers. My computer is freezing up here. His career numbers going up against the Brewers and American Family Field here. So we'll see if it actually kind of loads up here. But and then we'll kind of get our first glimpse of this young Reds team that I think there's some various opinions on it. At least it was before the season. I know some of the national people out there weren't maybe as high on them. I think a lot of the Terry Francona, bringing him on, I thought was a fantastic move. And, you got a lot of young talent with this Reds team. Could just be something as simple as a little bit of a slow start for them until they kind of get their feet wet and a little bit more comfortable. But I still feel like this is even though they're 2-4 to begin the season, a very, very dangerous Reds team that's filled with a lot of young talent, and one of them being that Elly De La Cruz. So, but trying to, where is it? Okay, maybe I'll find it coming up here during the break here. But what are some? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with a guy like Elly De La Cruz, you look at his past record, but he's just going to get better and better and better as he gets more into the game, because he's shown improvement all the time, and how much he can improve, I don't know, but I think he's going to be a superstar in the very near future. I think he's going to be rated as one of the top 5 players in baseball here, as far as position players, very, very soon, if he isn't already. I mean, he's a star. You can build a team around him.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's take a quick break here. And the question that we kind of are on with 1 week into the Major League Baseball season, because it was a week ago today that it was opening day. Doesn't necessarily have to be with the Brewers or your favorite team, whether it's the Twins or Cubs or whoever it is. But 1 week into the season, what's kind of been your first impressions so far across Major League Baseball? You can hit us up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or hit us up on the socials. Is it Torpedo Bats? Is it Dodgers and Padres off to undefeated starts so far? Is
Braves.
it Braves who are winless? What else out there is there? Hit us up with your picks. We'll get to some of ours coming up in just a little bit. But first, we got to take a quick break, and then we'll be back to wrap up already the first hour coming up in just a couple minutes. We don't want to get into this situation, but what happens when your car breaks down and you need a tow? Who do you call? You call AJM Automotive in Eau Claire. Not only is AJM Automotive your go-to place when it comes to auto repairs, but they also offer towing services too, and they offer a discounted towing rate for vehicles brought to their location. So if you get into a situation where you need to be towed and you need to have your vehicle fixed right up, AJM Automotive in Eau Claire, right on Brackett Avenue, has you covered. Just give them a call at 715-835-9523. AJM Automotive, also a partner of ours, for when we head on over to Green Bay 3 weeks from today for the draft. Coming up, we'll be doing the program from Green Bay 3 weeks starting today, starting 3 weeks from today. About 15 minutes to the top of the hour. With it being the 1 week anniversary of the baseball season, 1 week ago today, it was opening day, even though Dodgers and Cubs had started off in the Tokyo series for a couple games before that. But everybody else essentially got started either today or it'd be a week ago tomorrow, depending on weather and that. But with 1 week of the Major League Baseball season now in the books, what are some of your first impressions? What has really stood out to you so far this season? It doesn't necessarily have to be with your favorite team. A few responses here. The most popular one right now is the Padres going undefeated. We've got Jim saying Padres starting off undefeated has been a big surprise. Dodgers, I don't think anybody's too surprised that they're off to a fast start. Another texter says it's the Padres. Another one says the Braves, although the Braves have played both the Padres and Dodgers, so it's easy to see why they're winless right now, considering those two teams are undefeated. Another texter says the story has been torpedo bats, although that has quieted down as of late. And then another texter is picking the Padres, beginning their season undefeated as well. So keep those coming if you'd like to chime in with your opinion, your take. What is your first impression so far the first week of the Major League Baseball season? Yours?
Those that have money can put winning teams on the field. Let's face it. I mean, the Dodgers have bought a tremendous team. The Padres have spent a lot of money. The Phillies have spent a lot of money. The teams that have spent a lot of money are doing well. You know, it's just the way it works. You can buy the best talent and you put them on the field and they perform. Money talks.
Looking at your division leaders so far, the first week, you've got the Blue Jays on top in the AL East, 5-2. Tampa Bay right behind them, though, 4-2. White Sox tied with the Guardians, tied with the Tigers, tied with the Royals, tied with the Twins. It means AL Central, everybody's 2-4 right now in the AL Central.
And who in the AL Central spends a lot of money?
You got the West with the Texas Rangers on top, 5-2. Angels are just a little bit behind them, half game, 4-2. The NL East, you've got the Phillies, 4-1. Marlins there as well. The Mets sitting at 500. As we mentioned, the Braves 0-7. Cardinals leading the division right now in the NL Central, 4-2. Cubbies 5-4, just a half game back. And then the West, you've got it's pretty. We knew this was going to be a good division. Dodgers undefeated, Padres undefeated. The Giants only have one loss, and the Diamondbacks are 4-2, and they've won their last couple games in the Bronx, going up against the Yankees and silencing those bats. Those bats that just absolutely came alive against the Brewers on the opening weekend series. So a couple more texts saying in the first couple days it was torpedo bats, but now it's the NL West with the depth of that division. That's from Chris.
What are torpedo bats? I was gone the last 2 or 3 weeks, and all I hear is torpedo bats. What are torpedo bats?
Well, you can look them up. They're the bats that the Yankees are using. They're a little bit of a different design. They look like bowling pins a little bit, but essentially the weight and is a little bit distributed differently, and the most amount of wood is in a certain spot, kind of their sweet spot.
Different
allows
wood,
them.
or is it still
No,
ash?
it's just designed differently. It's
Huh.
approved by Major League Baseball. So,
Okay, I haven't seen them.
but yeah, go ahead and look them up. It looks like a bowling pin, looks like a torpedo, a little bit out there, but it's just the amount of more wood in a certain spot. It was initially designed for players who can kind of get jammed up to have a little bit more of a, I don't know if sweet spot would be the right way to say it and such, but
More wood just above their hands.
kinda,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, it goes. I'm trying to show you. Kind of goes like that a
Yep,
little
yep,
bit.
yep,
So
yep.
that's what these torpedo bats are. And when the Yankees dropped 20 runs on the Brewers and then 12 runs and on all that, that was the big topic of conversation. But now it looks like more it might have been just the Brewers pitching sucked than torpedo bats, because
Maybe that's it.
Judge doesn't use a torpedo bat. It was more like Jazz Chisholm and Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt, and those guys are using those torpedo bats that were designed by an MIT physicist who works with the Marlins now. So, but he used to work with the Yankees. So, but
And they're approved, obviously,
approved by Major League
Major League Baseball.
Yep.
So
Ellie De La Cruz is now using one. The first day he used it was when he had 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. So Reese Hoskins said a couple days ago he was going to order some and try them out too. So if they're approve it, why not try it? See if it helps other people. I don't have a problem.
Be
with it.
interesting. No, I'm going to say if it's judged to be legal and everybody has access to them, go for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly. And yeah, like Judge dominated that series against the Brewers, and like a lot of people said too, he wasn't using it. He's using his normal one, but he's also Aaron Judge, and he's like 6'7". He's just a freak to begin with. So, but yeah, that's kind of quieted down. I think, because that Monday when we were talking a little bit about it, I think a lot of people wanted to see a little bit more of a sample size, and now with the Diamondbacks getting a couple wins and quieting those down, and because it is in New York too, it's quieted that talk down just a little bit, but more so it probably means that the Brewers pitching just stunk in that series. So
yeah, they got some work to do on the mound.
Another texter says even though the Dodgers, everybody expected them to be really good, the fact that they're off to an 8-0 start is still pretty darn impressive. Wonder if they'll catch the Brewers 13-0 start. I know that was kind of talked a little bit about. I think it was on MLB Network yesterday too, because it was Dan Plesac was on there and talking about what year was that? Was that 80?
Oh boy, it's a long time ago. But I remember Dale Swaim was on that team and some of those guys, and yeah, 13-0.
Let me.
It
was in the 80s, right?
Yeah, I believe it was. It was fun to listen to Bob Uecker back then.
87.
Yeah, back then of 13-0.
Yeah, the Brewers started off with 13 straight wins, but a month later, Brewers suffered through a 12-game losing streak to even things out.
Didn't last long.
Nope. That was also the season Paul Molitor had his 39-game hitting streak in 1980. I was 1 year old at that time.
Yeah,
I still remember it as 1 year
I was a little older than that, but I still remember it, and that was fun to follow that streak.
Mm-hmm. The Rays started 13-0 too, I believe, didn't they? I'll have to double check that.
I don't know what year that would have been, but I don't think it wasn't the same year.
No. Well, Tampa Bay Rays weren't around in 1987. So, yeah, I'll look that up during the break here, see if I can find that. So, but a couple more texts saying what's surprised me the most is the Cardinals jumping out to a 4-2 lead. I'm a Cardinals fan. So I'm enjoying it right now because it is not going to last. Another.
Well, that's the enthusiasm you like to hear.
Well, or it's enthusiasm or realism,
true.
possibly. But I think Brewers fans probably don't want to speak for everybody. We've seen enough from the Cardinals over the years, maybe to not always discount them. So, but another texter says, I'm going to go with the NL West overall. That is a deep division. When you look at the Padres, Dodgers, Giants, and Diamondbacks, it'll be interesting to follow that race throughout this whole season to see which teams can make the postseason and which teams beat up on each other. Can't wait to see some of those games going up against each other.
I think the NL East is going to be very interesting too. Again, a lot of money went into the Mets and the Phillies, and the Braves are obviously going to start winning. I think that's going to be a fun division to watch too over the course of the season.
Texter saying I'm going with Freddie Peralta because his 2 starts have been pretty solid. His first start was maybe a little more like a typical Freddie Peralta start, but he still pitched well considering how the other pitchers went up against the Yankees. And then yesterday going 8 innings, and he hasn't issued a single walk in these 2 games So Freddie Peralta for me is what stands out in the first week of the Major League Baseball season.
And he's really got his breaking ball working. He's really, if he can continue to, in situation, throw that breaking ball when they're expecting fastball, he could end up having an awfully good year.
Yeah, it was that I think, especially from yesterday's game, the thing that really stood out to me is he didn't get deep in the counts. He was able to keep that pitch count down even through 8 innings, was just at 97 pitches. So he was getting through the order, getting through innings pretty darn quick. And that isn't like a typical Freddie who goes deep in the counts and racks up some of that pitch count. So much needed performance from that, especially given how much these pitchers have been utilized on this ball club so far this season. So that's a good one. Was from Travis on our texting line, going with the Freddie Peralta pick. So keep those coming. We'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up here a little bit later on, but you can text those or hit us up on the socials and all that fun stuff. Coming up next hour, we'll hit up a little hoops talk. Bucks are back in action tonight. They're hitting the road for a little quick road trip for the next 3 games as they start to wrap up their regular season. They'll be taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. Bucks coming off their win against the Suns just the other night, where Giannis double-double over third. It was 37 points and 11 assists for the Greek Freak. We'll see what the Bucks have in store going up against the 76ers on the road. A quick look at the standings here. Another team in the West has finally clinched a playoff spot, and that's the Houston Rockets. So it's just Oklahoma City and Houston who have officially clinched playoff spots in the West. For the East, we know the teams that are in the playoffs. It's just we don't have everybody clinched quite yet on if they're going to be in the top 6 or in the play-in. But the 4 teams that have clinched spots in the top 6 are Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, and the Pacers. The Bulls have clinched a play-in. So it's between Pistons, Bucks, Orlando, Atlanta, and Miami. Still a little seedings going on between those teams. West, it's still pretty wide open at this point in time, but just 2 teams in the West have officially been eliminated from playoff contention, and that is the Pelicans and the Utah Jazz so far. So still a little bit more to be played with. Minnesota right now holding on by the slimmest of edges for that 6th and final spot in the top 6 in the Western Conference. But the Clippers right there with them, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So Timberwolves, Clippers, and Grizzlies all have the same identical records, 44 and 32. Bucks half game behind the Pistons right now for that 5th seed in the Eastern Conference after the Pistons falling to the Oklahoma City Thunder last night. And again, a quick reminder that the Bucks do play the Pistons in a home and away for the final 2 games of the regular season. Bucks are 3.5 back from the Pacers, who are in that 4th seed. But we'll talk a little bit about this game and give you an update on the Damian Lillard situation, a little bit of a health update on him. So we'll tell you about that coming up just past the top of the hour. We'll hit that up. We'll talk a little football as well with the NFL draft. 3 weeks from today is the first round. 3 weeks from today is the first round of the what is this? First round. Okay. 3 weeks from today is the first round of the NFL draft. So what is your gut telling you? What do you think Green Bay is going to do? Position. You could just give me a position, or if you got a player in mind. I know a lot of you in the last few days have been texting in some draft stuff and you're getting antsy and such. So with the first round being 3 weeks from today, what is your gut kind of telling you? We'll hit that up coming up a little bit later on. We'll do a little receiver defer probably in the next hour as well. So just got a text from Jake. He's unavailable for today, so we will push back our outdoor chats for next week for Jake too. So save those questions. We'll catch up with Jake next week for another edition of our outdoor chats. A couple more texts as we wrap up this first hour. Biggest surprise for me so far this Major League Baseball season. This is from Greg on our texting line. Greg says it's the Braves. I know they've gone up against some really tough teams, but the fact that they're still winless is a surprise that they couldn't even just get one of those wins. Another texter says the thing that stands out the first week of the season for me is the start of the Blue Jays in that AL East. Everybody was talking about the Red Sox being a sleeper team, and then of course all the attention on the Yankees. But the Blue Jays off to a 5-2 start this season to lead the division is a nice, pleasant surprise because I can't stand the other teams in that division. All right, one in. We got a couple more to go here. We'll begin it talking some hoops. Again, we'll get you an update on the Damian Lillard health situation because he was spotted at practice. Does that necessarily mean anything? Maybe not. We'll tell you about that coming up after these news updates. The second hour kicking off on this Thursday morning of April 3rd. We'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up in just a little while here. Again, no outdoor chats with Mr. Jake Boakes here this morning. Has a work event, so we'll catch up with him next week. For those of you who have sent over questions, we will get to those. I'll save those for next week for for Jake. So we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. We've got some football chat coming up here 3 weeks from today. We've got the first round of the NFL draft. So if you are planning on going, don't forget to download that NFL All Access app. It's free unless you're paying for one of those packages to go in there. But otherwise, it's free. You just got to download the app so they can scan it and count you and all that stuff. So, but what is your gut telling you right now? What do you think? What position do you think Green Bay is going to go for? Just kind of a little informal poll question since we're 3 weeks out. Majority of you going with an edge rusher. It looks like I'm not going to go through every text here, just kind of doing some adding. Then it looks like maybe corner and wide receiver are the top three. So continue to send those, and we'll keep you updated on our little informal poll question. Let's do a quick throwback Thursday. Not a lot going on in this day in history, but 1977, the Montreal Canadiens became the first team in NHL history to win 60 games in a season. 1985, Major League Baseball Players Association agreed to a proposal of the team owners to expand the 85 League Championship Series from the best of 5 games to the best of 7. And then a little bit more on the local side of things. It was this day back in let me bring it up. I want to make it was 1950. Was it 56? Where did it go here? 1956, that Green Bay voters approved a referendum to fund a new Packers stadium with a bond issue of $960,000. You know that stadium now as Lambeau Field. NFL commissioner at the time, Burt Bell, and even Chicago Bears coach, founder, owner George Halas helped promote to pass the referendum, because if it hadn't, in all likelihood, the Packers would have had to relocate. So that was this day in 1956.
Not even $1 million.
Nope, but still a lot of money back then. So for 1956. So those are just a little throwback Thursday nuggets for you. All right, let's talk a little hoops here, as we've got the Bucks back in action tonight. Quick programming note: since the Bucks and Brewers are essentially on at the same time, with the first pitch for the Brewers game tonight at 6:40. The Brewers game will be on 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Bucks will be airing on our sister station 95.9 and 11:50. The tip time for that game is around 6 p.m. So in case you're tuning in to you want to listen to the Bucks game, it'll be on 95.9, 11:50 a.m. and then Brewers will be 105.1 FM, 790 a.m. But Bucks tonight on the road, taking on the Philadelphia 76ers as they try to climb a little bit up in these Eastern Conference standings with just a handful of games left to go in the regular season. But we do have a Dame update, and there is a chance, according to Shams from ESPN, he was on Pat McAfee's show the other day, saying, quote, there is a chance, there is optimism about Damian Lillard's return this season. With blood clots, it's usually an extended absence, months long, but I'm told his treatment started early. They identified the issue and began treatment. Then they finally received the diagnosis. He's having doctor's appointments every week to assess the blood clot in his calf. My understanding is that doctors are encouraged by his progress. They see the blood clot shrinking, it's decreasing, it's diminishing. He's also doing some light workouts right now. He's hopeful to be cleared in the next week to a week and a half to go full contact and resume playing for the Milwaukee Bucks. So, again, with a situation like that, you want to make sure he is fully healthy. You don't want to mess with something with an issue like that with blood clots and that. But for just a pure basketball sense, that would be a huge boost for this Bucks team if they could get him back in time for the postseason. But is trending, it sounds like, in the right direction for him to return at least when the postseason starts coming up here. But we'll see. That's obviously something you can't try to rush or push and try to get him out there a little bit earlier. It's not a sprained ankle or anything like that to try to push it. So, but nonetheless, it's a good positive note when it comes to Damian Lillard and the blood clots that he's got in his lower extremities, his right calf right now. So
yeah, you don't mess with blood clots because they break loose and get to the heart. Then it's over. Blood clots are very serious.
Yep. And I mean, for the example too, I mean, if he does return for the postseason, like Sham said, I mean, you're talking about months. Remember Victor Wembanyama, right after the All-Star break, it was revealed he had a blood clot and he was already ruled out for the rest of the season. And I know that was a different location. His was in the shoulder there, and they didn't want that, obviously, lungs or hearts and that too. So, but good shout out to the Bucks medical staff and doctors for obviously treating it right away and finding what was going on and able to get him the help that he needed right away to clear that out. So
very important. Those blood clots. There, I've heard so many things about blood clots. Well, just a routine, went in and didn't come out. Blood clot broke away and got to the heart, and it was over. So that's a very doesn't sound serious, but it is. It is serious.
Yeah, it absolutely is. So, but it'd be nice if we get him back on the court. Obviously, it would be a big difference once we get to the postseason and such. But I'm still, I'm not counting on it just because it is a tricky situation with that. So, but we'll see. We'll see. But Bucks right now beginning a little bit of a road trip with their game against the 76ers, the 76ers team that's already eliminated from the postseason. Saturday at Miami, Sunday taking on the Pelicans, and then next Tuesday they will return home to face the Timberwolves, and then next Thursday's the Pelicans, and then the away and home against the Detroit Pistons.
I think the Pistons have probably been the most surprising team in the NBA this year.
That I'd probably throw Rockets in there too because they're the second seed in the Western Conference, although it's by 14 games.
Yeah, maybe the Pelicans are most disappointing. Zion Williamson just has been a major disappointment since he came out from Duke. You know, when he plays, that team can be pretty good, but he just can't play. I don't know what the most games he's played in the season
60,
since he's come out.
I think it was 60.
Yeah, and that's not a lot of games when you've got 82 games, and I don't think he's probably had many seasons that have been over 50. And major disappointment. It's too bad. It's a combination of his injuries, but he can't keep his weight under control. He gets too big and causes injuries. Major disappointment for the Pelicans with Zion Williamson because he can play the game when he's healthy.
So his rookie year, he played 24. That was 2019, 2020. 2020, 2021, he played 61. The following year, he didn't play at all. Then in 2022 to 23, he played 29 games. Last year, he played 70, but this year, just 30. So, and that's a number
too bad,
one overall.
I'm sure the kid would like to play, but he just can't get it together.
So, just a quick note in case you're driving around. Apparently, this was actually from my wife, but then I've seen somebody else sent it to us. There's a high speed chase going on over by Truax, by the school over there. So North Crossing, be careful over there if you're driving around and such. So be careful. Little note because I know people are probably dropping kids off or going to work right now. So be careful if you see anything out there. So don't want anybody mess with that situation.
Absolutely not. I don't know what the story is behind that, but hopefully they get resolved because this is a bad time to be having a high-speed chase because there are a lot of school buses, kids being dropped off. So be careful out there. Even if you're walking, you never know where this high-speed chase is going to be, and don't assume they're going to stop for you. So be careful.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, looking at the NBA, just kind of we are week and a half away, about a couple weeks away from the rest of the regular season, kind of ending. I mean, you look at the Eastern Conference, it's Cleveland, but Boston's been playing really well as of late. They just finally lost, but they're 9-1 in their last 10. But they're just 5 games back from Cleveland, so they're not out of it from potentially getting the top seed in the East. Knicks sitting there in the third. You got the Pacers that have been playing really well as of late. They're 2 in their last 10 games. making it very difficult for the Bucks to try to catch them to get that home court spot. Because remember, top 4 teams get home court in the first round of the postseason. But as we mentioned, we know the teams that are going to the postseason in the Eastern Conference. It's just hasn't really clinched on if not everybody's clinched whether they're going to be in the play-in or whether they're going to be in the top 6. 4 teams of the top 6 have already clinched. That's Cleveland, Boston, the Knicks, and the Pacers. They're going to be in that top 6. Detroit and Milwaukee are in the driver's seat. They're probably going to get into it because right now the Bucks are the 6th seed and they're 5 games ahead of the 7th seed Orlando Magic. So it's probably going to be, we know these top 6, and then we'll know the 7 through the 10. Those could change around a little bit. Orlando's a 7, Atlanta's the 8, but they're just a half game back. Miami's the 9th. They're 1.5 back. Bulls have already clinched a play-in. They're in that 10 spot right now. The West is a little bit different. Yeah, because we've never heard that before, where the West actually has maybe a little bit more deeper of talent there. But Oklahoma is just on a historic run right now. They've won 11 in a row. They're 64 wins. Houston's clinched a playoff spot. They're the 2 seed right now, and they're 14.5 games back from Oklahoma. Lakers are currently the 3rd seed. They're 17.5 back from Oklahoma. Denver, Golden State, Minnesota round out the top 6. But then you got the Clippers and the Grizzlies, who have the same record as the Timberwolves. Timberwolves hold a little bit of the tiebreaker. Then Dallas and Sacramento round out the top 10. But you got Phoenix, that's just a game out from being in that top 10. Portland hasn't been eliminated yet. Spurs are not eliminated yet. They're only 4 back from that final spot. So a lot more to be decided yet when it comes to the Western Conference. But again, how many years have we said that, where the Western Conference may be a little bit deeper and a little bit more talented top to bottom? So
Oklahoma City is head and shoulders above everybody else this year. When they're healthy, they're very, very good.
Exactly. So all right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back, and we got a few of you texting in about the drafts. We'll talk a little football coming up next. When it comes to one-stop shopping, there's truly just one store in the Chippewa Valley that can carry that title, and that's Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. From grocery shopping and maybe picking up some new team apparel in their sports shop to grabbing a beverage at the bar or picking up something from their massive wine and spirits department, Hy-Vee has something for everyone. And if you want someone else to cook for you for tonight, they got you covered with many different options from their food court. When you head out, don't forget to fill up your gas tank with the fuel savers that you earned by shopping at Hy-Vee. So shop smart, shop Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. 3 weeks from today will be the first round of the NFL draft in Green Bay. I know quite a few of you have texted in saying that you're going to it and such, and we'll be there doing the program Thursday and Friday from the first round. And I know the Dan Patrick Show is going to be there doing it as well. They announced yesterday they're going to be doing their show from the bar in Green Bay. So that won't be too far from where we're doing our program and such. But 3 weeks away from that first round, what's your gut kind of telling you? What's your gut telling you what the Packers are going to do? Just kind of an informal poll question. A lot of you saying defense. It still looks like defensive line. I'll combine defensive line and edge rusher on there. Then you've got corner and wide receiver. So that's top three. But the draft also is kind of affecting how Matt LaFleur and his team are kind of operating. Matt LaFleur and Goody obviously were at the owners' meetings just earlier this week, and both of them talking a little bit to the media. Matt LaFleur said with the impact on the draft being in Green Bay, what's the impact it's having on his offseason program and his players? Matt LaFleur saying, quote, "It'll be exciting to get the guys back in. We're going to maximize our time this offseason too. But with the draft being in Green Bay, we're bringing the guys in a week later than everybody else. We're going to do the first week virtually, and then we'll hit the ground running. We'll probably cut it a week early as well in June. I just think the totality of the NFL season is a long time, so I want to give those guys a chance to get away before we come back. But when we are together, we're going to have to maximize that time to try to create the best offseason that we possibly can." So not only is the draft affecting neighborhoods and commutes maybe to work because Lombardi was already closed down. A lot of streets were closed down last weekend. It's affecting Matt LaFleur and maybe trying to get some guys in for some off-season programming and such. But he also talked a little bit about some of his pass catchers and receivers. He talked a little bit about Jaden Reed. And because that was definitely a question that Packers fans had last year with Reed, that it seemed like he became a little bit of a non-factor towards the end of the regular season. Matt LaFleur saying Reed definitely started off hot. It's a long season. There's ebbs and flows with every season. I think there was a point in time about midway through where he got banged up. Nothing serious, just the overall pounding, and it definitely took a little bit of a toll. But I also think we could have done a better job from a staff perspective of trying to put him in some more advantageous situations where he could have produced those numbers, because he is an explosive player and he's one of those guys that you want to get the ball to, no doubt. And he also talked a little bit about Luke Musgrave, saying that Luke Musgrave has spent this offseason in Green Bay, spent the entire offseason in Green Bay, or I guess still technically is spending the offseason in Green Bay, working out, getting bigger, getting faster, and such. So that's got to be a coach's dream whenever you hear that a player is spending their offseason in the same town, especially when it's Green Bay and such, and putting in that extra work. So that has to be a coach's dream, I would imagine. So what's your gut telling you right now?
My gut is telling, and again, I'm looking at the overall team, and I know everybody's talking defense, the rush. When is enough for me? With Gary and Van Ness and Kenny Clark, all first-round draft choices. Granted, Kenny Clark's got some age on him and this, that, and the other thing. When is enough for drafting those kind of guys? Right now, for me, and I know 99% of the people won't agree with me, and they don't do it in the first or second round ever, and they've been pretty successful over the years, I won't doubt that, we need offensive line help. I think we need offensive line help to make the running game better. I think it'll make Jordan Love better. I think it'll make our wide receivers better. I think we need offensive line help. Not that we don't need help on the defense. I'll never say that. They do. But Van Ness and Gary, they've got to step up. They're first round draft choices. They're, especially Gary's making a pretty good paycheck. Kenny Clark's making a good paycheck. I don't know, what the defensive backfield. I think there's some good defensive backs. They made some great moves last year in free agency, and whether they can address the offensive line more in free agency or through trades, I don't know what their planning is, but I really think they need help on the offensive line that will really make things better for a running game and for Jordan Love.
Is there a specific offensive line spot? Because who are you taking out from the starters right now?
Well, I'm just thinking for the overall health, what happened when we got hurt last year, when you brought in the guys that were backups. I don't think they're deep enough. I'm not saying you're bringing in a first-round draft choice to offset Jenkins or anybody like that. I'm just saying that they've got to address in some way, shape, or form more depth and more talent, more than just 5 guys on the offensive line.
Because to play devil's advocate, you have said before you want your first-rounders to play. So if you're drafting a first-line offensive lineman, who are they replacing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think they're necessarily going to have a first-round draft choice in offensive line because they've always done 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th line, and they've done pretty well getting
Except
those kind of guys. Yeah. But, I mean, I just think that they have to – the overall depth and strength of that offense, because there was no depth in that line last year. And I think that's something – now, I'm not saying the first-round draft choice. I'm just saying something that I hope they don't neglect for picking more defensive players in the front 7. I just think the offensive line has to be addressed to get more depth and more talent, because once you went in the playoff to the 6th player, a couple of those tackles, they just weren't very good. I mean, and it showed, and the running game suffered then. They got all kinds of penalties. Jordan Love was on the run. I just think that offensive line has to be dealt with.
But what's your gut for the first round, since it's 3 weeks from today?
Well, for the first round, I think they're going to go defense. I think it's going to be in the front 7. And that's what I'm saying. When is enough enough? When are you going to hit on that first round draft choice for the defensive front 7? You got to hit pretty soon. And I think that's where they're going to go. I don't think they'll go wide receiver in the first round. I hope they don't go defensive back. I think it's jumping out at you. This is going to be the front 7 addressed.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, 3 weeks away, and I'm not quite sure where I would go with my mock for what position.
No, right, I'm not either sure of it. I'm not sure at all. But, how they evaluate their defensive backfield, who's going to be there, who's not going to be there. They got some decisions to make before this draft. Is number 23 going to be back? I doubt that. So I don't, they've still got some personnel decisions with the roster they have that they've got to make that are going to affect what happens in the draft.
Yeah, Jair was working out with Xavier McKinney yesterday. They posted that up on the socials. That doesn't really mean anything at this point, but just kind of a little fun nugget. So
no, with him worked out. He worked out 3 or 4 games last year, full go in practice. Didn't play on Sunday for the last 3, 4 games, whatever it was. I mean, it was major. He's a major disappointment. I think in the talent, you can't question his talent, but you sure can question his attitude.
So yeah, 3 weeks from today is that first round. Then you got all the smoke screens and rumors surrounding out there. So mock drafts galore. You can look at all these different ones and such. But the one that matters, we'll get to our mock draft the week of. We're actually going to do it from Green Bay. So I know a couple of you have asked, and we'll do that the week of when we're over there in Green Bay for the draft too. So. But we'll have some guests, and we'll have their predictions and picks when we're over there, too. So,
how many people do you think are going to be in? I mean, can they put a limit on it, or is it anybody that can get there is going to come? I mean, I just can't imagine how many people are going to be there for that game.
I'm going to say...
Or for that draft, rather.
For total, I keep going about 300,000. That's where I'm going to... That's where... I think that's 350,000. 300 to 350,000. That's what.
And the population of Green Bay is what?
100-some thousand.
Yeah, it's going to be something. It's it's going to be fun to watch on TV because I'm not going to get caught up in it. If I was maybe 30, 40 years younger, I would. But it's going to be fun to watch. Kind of exciting to
No,
bring it to
I
Green
should.
Bay.
I might have because Detroit had 775,000.
Detroit did?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Boy, could they get 500,000, 500,000? I might have shortchanged it because this is over the course, not just one
Yeah.
day sort of thing.
Well, don't plan on taking a vacation to Door County that weekend because you might not be able to get through Green Bay to get there.
Every year it's gone up and up and up and broken attendance records. But gosh, Green Bay, I don't know. I don't know
And
if they're
that's
going to
a
break that.
destination. People want to come and see Lambeau. If they can't get tickets to a game, this is their chance to come to Lambeau. How many tours? They're going to have tours. Oh, my goodness.
I can't. I don't know if they're going to break Detroit's record or 775,000. I can't. No, I don't
I
think
don't
that
think
will.
the infrastructure can handle it.
I
Because,
don't think so.
how far away? You're going to have to stay in Chicago, Milwaukee, and Chicago
Mm-hmm.
to come to the draft every day.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to, Wausau. Wausau will probably be full of people.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got any the buses. I know they talked about down in Milwaukee and all that. They're going to have some other what do you call it?
I'm sure they'll have shuttles.
Shuttles. That's the word I was
shuttles
thinking
going
of,
back and forth.
But yeah, I
But
don't
how
know.
close are the shuttles going to be? Can you get within a mile or two of the site? You're going to have to walk in. I don't know. It's going to be fun to see how they handle it in Green Bay. You can bet the Green Bay police and the county police over there are going to be taxed, to say the least.
Yeah, they got a Wausau shuttle service. Visit Wausau is offering a round trip shuttle service from Wausau to Green Bay for all 3 days. Ticket pricing, early bird tickets through March 31st, which is already gone. That was $65. Standard tickets April 1st through the 14th are $70. And last minute tickets, I'm assuming that's $70 a day. April 15th through 23rd are 75. Milwaukee's got one. Appleton, Sheboygan, Greenville. Yeah, there's some other ones over there too. But yeah, Green Bay, Discover Green Bay's got a list of it up there.
That's reasonably priced, round trip bus tour in there. You don't have to worry about parking. My goodness, you go over there and try and find a place to park. If I had a house over there and parking cars, I'd be charging $100, $200 a car.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can get on a bus and don't have to worry about parking, that's a good deal.
Yeah, and it's through the NFL, so it's not. You're probably going to get a primo drop-off spot, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, let's take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the second hour with a quick little receiver defer, and then we'll get to the final hour coming up in just a little bit. So don't forget, you can continue the conversation. Hit us up with some texts on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. Quick break. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Easy math question for you all. When you add spring and baseball together, what do you get? That's a simple answer. It's brats. So fire up those grills for some tailgate parties or some backyard barbecues this spring with some brats from Mike's Star Market. Whether it's the Bloody Mary brat or some beer brats, Mike's Star Market has so many different options of brats for you to choose from that you will easily be the talk of your tailgate party or your neighborhood cookout. Celebrate the beginning of spring and baseball season by making a stop at Mike's Star Market, located on the west side of Eau Claire. If you want to check out the leaderboard of where the brackets are standing, it's still anybody's ball game because our top 5 all have the final 4 teams correct, including a couple of youngsters on there. Shout out to Boomer Tony's son, Junior, who's in 3rd place right now. Chris is the overall leader with 109 points. And then my guy Hudson's in 2nd with all Final 4 teams, too. So he's beaten Dad for the 3rd straight year already. So, but yeah, all top 5 got Final 4 picks in there, and it's anybody's ball game right now. So we'll see how it all plays out. I'm excited for the Final 4. I think it's going to be some really good matchups.
I think the girls, the ladies' Final 4 is going to be good, too. I feel sorry for USC. I was watching that game against UConn when they didn't have their Juju Schuster and with a bad injury. So she couldn't play, and the rest of USC made it a game, but you could see that UConn was going to win that game early on.
Yeah, Juju Watkins,
thank you. And you could see that they just couldn't hang on with UConn. So I think the women's Final 4 is going to be a good competition as well.
Yep. UConn versus UCLA makes it for the first time in program history, so they get rewarded by having to play UConn. And then it's South Carolina, dominant program over the years with head coach Don Staley going up against 1-seeded Texas over there. So, I mean, it's essentially all 1 seeds, really, if you want to break it down for both of them. But I think, both men's and women's is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, SEC has been dominant conference in men's college basketball, and it's kind of rightfully so. It's Auburn versus Florida to go to the national championship, and then Cooper Flag and Duke going up against the best defensive team in the country in Houston. So it's going to be, I think, really good games.
I think so. What is the men's is Saturday and Monday, women's Friday and Sunday.
Yep. Women's start tomorrow night. So.
All right. And then after that, next week, we get the Masters.
Which I think there's not a whole lot of enthusiasm with Tiger not playing. So, but it's still the Masters.
Yeah. It's still the Masters. But what are the live players are going to play? Sergio's a defending champion. I'm not sure who else is going to be in there. Are they bringing Bryson DeChambeau back in? Are those guys going to be playing? Because it's not a PGA tournament. It's the Masters. Yeah. I haven't seen the raw lineup yet of who's in and who's not in, but that's always fun to watch the Masters.
Yep. The field is out there. I mean, a lot of the normal people. Bryson's on there, Jason Day's on there, so Matt Fitzpatrick, Tony Finau, Sergio's on there. So yeah, it's listed up there.
And Dustin Johnson and
Dustin
those guys,
Johnson's on there. So.
Yeah, he's a past winner, so
yep.
He can play.
Brooks is on there. So, all right, let's do some receiver defer. What do you got over there?
Receiver defer. You're not as optimistic for the Brewers this year as you were a year ago.
I'll defer that. I didn't know what to expect at this point last year for the Brewers. So I was going in with a little bit of an unknown, and they surpassed my expectations. So I'm still enthusiastic about them.
I'm enthusiastic, but I'm not just because of the pitching. I'm still enthusiastic and hoping, obviously, to do well, but I'm sure concerned about the pitching. Last year we had a little bit more optimism with the pitching, but
I'm a little bit more optimistic about pitching this year because we know those guys are coming back. Where last year they went through 17 different starting pitchers.
Yeah, I know they did.
But so Tobias will be back. Brandon Woodruff's trending in a fantastic direction. Quintana's fine. It's just the ramp up of him getting ready. So he'll be back next week. So I feel more optimistic. They've got to weather this, and they'll get some healthy arms coming back here.
Good. That's what I like to hear. Receiver defer, overall, you're somewhat disappointed with the Bucs' performance this season.
Somewhat.
I was trying to be nice about it.
They are. What I mean, anytime you have Giannis and Dame, and I know Dame's going through the blood cut, but I mean, for crying out loud, how they started the season, what, 1-10, 1-9, whatever it
Yeah.
was. I mean, for crying out loud, it's. I got fooled again by this Bucks team this year. It was April Fool's the other day. They fooled me last year, and they fooled me again this year.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know. Drew Holiday, letting him go was a major mistake, no question about it. And receiver defer. After the first year, the Big Ten is more fun to watch than before expansion.
For basketball or for just overall?
Football, basketball.
Football, no, because they get their butts whooped. You got Oregon and those.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it from a Wisconsin perspective.
I don't enjoy the Big Ten at all anymore.
Basketball, it's still the typical Big Ten teams that are up there. UCLA made a little bit of a run, but
it just it's going to take time to develop these
Weird.
rivalries.
It
seems like there should be exhibition games, and I'm not into it yet. Not that I won't get into it as time goes on, but right now I don't think it was all that exciting to watch them in football or in basketball. I just wasn't really fired up because it seemed like we lost games with some of our traditional opponents, and I'm not all that enthusiastic yet. Not saying I won't, but I'm not one of those that think it's more fun in a better league.
I think it's still early up for me. Like, I'm still going to call the A's the Oakland A's. I'm still going to call the Chargers the San Diego Chargers, that sort of stuff. And I'm still not going to call Oregon and UCLA Big Ten members until I get more accustomed to it.
No, that's about the way I am. I just they don't seem to fit. It just doesn't fit.
I still struggle to see like Rutgers and Maryland, Big Ten,
too.
Even though they've been there for a while. But I still think of Maryland back to old school Gary Williams and ACC, type of.
Absolutely.
So.
Expansion is just a money thing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. So it's just, I think when you've gotten it ingrained, okay, so my question, maybe, I don't know if this would be a great example, but like I've only known the Brewers as most of my life as a National League team. Do you still kind of like, oh yeah, because they started off American League, right? I mean, does that kind of still like, did it take you a while to get accustomed to like the Brewers switching over to the National League?
No, not to the National League. No? It was harder for me to watch the Brewers as an American League team. Because with the Braves, I'm old enough where I grew up with the Braves. So I'm a National League guy. The Cardinals, the Cubs, the Giants, the Dodgers, those are the teams that I want to see. I don't care about, watching Cleveland and some of those other American League teams. So I was excited as could be when the Brewers got in the National League.
So was it, just because I wasn't around, thinking of a World Series game or a World Series was Brewers Cardinals. Now they're division teams, but that was, a World Series matchup.
Yeah, well, World Series you get excited about no matter who you're
playing.
But
I'm just saying, like, it's like Brewers Cardinals World Series.
Exactly.
Like for me, that's like, what?
I was never an American League fan. I enjoy the baseball, but I'm not an American League fan. I'm a National League fan. I grew up with Willie Mays and McCovey and Clemente and Stan Musial and, Don Newcomb, Sandy Koufax. I could name just about the roster of every National League team back then. But the American League, I never paid much attention to. Everybody paid attention to the Yankees, but other than that, you didn't.
Does it matter anymore now, though, with the DH and both?
Well, I still am leaning towards the American League or the National League cities, St. Louis, Cubs, Wrigley Field, and things like that. I'm still a National League guy. No, the leagues now together play the same kind of baseball, but I'm still a National League guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that maybe that kind of like the Big Ten sort of, it goes back to the Big Ten thing, right? Even though it's like you got DH both in American League and National League, are you still a National League guy? Even though it's because we just saw the Brewers open up their first two series against American League teams because now they're doing that. It's a little bit more of an open schedule, right? So it's kind of diluted it a little bit, hasn't it?
I think it has. Yeah. I mean, Kansas City had first choice and they didn't want to go to the National League. They wanted to stay in the American League. So everybody around here would just crossing your fingers, don't change your mind. So then the Brewers could go to the National League. And I think that's helped the Brewers a lot being a National League team because old time, and you still go to the games and, a lot of the people that are there still remember the Braves. and they're National League, and Milwaukee's a National League town.
Mm-hmm. Do a little what if the Brewers were still an American League team, do you think there would be a bigger rivalry between them and the Twins than what it is? It's like a friendly rivalry.
Yeah, no, I would imagine it would be. Yeah, I would think so. It's it to me, I'm an older guy. It's still hard for me to see the Pittsburgh Steelers in the American Football Conference. They were a National Football League team, and I was surprised. And the Baltimore Colts, now Indianapolis, going to the AFC. They were NFL teams, NFC teams, and it's still, to me, Colts and the Steelers are NFL teams.
Mm-hmm. Browns,
Browns too, yeah.
Going back because we had some Packer Browns matchups back in the day, Jim Brown
absolutely.
and Paul Hornung, and going back there. Yeah. So that's a good way to put it.
And that's worked out well. It's great rivalries that they have now. But when they first announced that the Steelers were going to the AFC, the American Football Conference, the old American Football League, it was hard to wrap your head around it because the Steelers were a long-time NFL, one of the founding teams.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know it's about a week away, but since we were just chatting a little bit about the Masters, receiver defer, the Masters will have one of their lowest ratings in years.
I agree. I think golf is at a critical point right now because LIV has really changed. And I tried to watch that LIV, and first off, you don't know what you're watching. Are these guys really competing, or are they just playing for a paycheck? I don't see any competition there. They got these teams, and what are you going to win? So you're going to win the Saudi Arabian Open. You don't have any majors there. You don't have anything. And so I think there's a lot of lack of enthusiasm, for lack of a better word, for golf right now. And without Tiger in the field, that does make a difference. Rory
is hurt.
Yeah. Scotty Scheffler isn't playing that good at golf right now. I think the hype for this Masters is the lowest it's been in years and years and years.
Mm-hmm.
I really am concerned. I'm not concerned they're not going to go anyplace, but it might be like you said, some of the lowest ratings they've ever had.
Did I see somewhere too, like they're actually expanding the coverage so you can watch more golf? Like, is it 9 hours straight or something like that? The first 2 rounds, sometimes they wouldn't start it till later, but now it's like, now you can continuously watch it and such. So I don't know if that was part of it, but Scheffler and Rory are still the top 2 favorite, but that's no surprise if you look at odds makers. Then it drops off quite a bit. Colin Morikawa is the next one up, and then Jon Rahm is 4th best odds. But yeah, I think it's going to take a hit. No question.
I do too. I think there's a lack of enthusiasm. Jon Rahm, over the years, how many times I picked him to win a major all the time when he was just coming up. I watch him on that LIV, the little bit I do watch it. I don't see really any enthusiasm in his game. I don't know if he doesn't like it over there or what the deal is, and maybe I'm just misreading him. But, I don't see big crowds there. I don't see where the competition is for those guys. And those guys are brought up to be the best in the world, so you want to compete against the best in the world. And I don't know if on that LIV tour, if they can do that. Mm-hmm. It really is a different animal in golf.
Mm-hmm. How much time do I got? Okay, I got a couple minutes here. It's not really receiver defer, but it's kind of a this or that. You could have one player to start your team in Major League Baseball today, right now, or add this. How about this? I'll rephrase it. Add one player to the Brewers right now, Ohtani or Judge. Who are you adding?
Ellie De La Cruz.
No, those 2. I gave you 2. Ohtani or Judge?
Ohtani. Yeah. Just because hopefully he's going to be able to come back and pitch. But again, last night he hit the walk-off home run to win the game. The guy, when I saw him in Milwaukee, was it last year, the year before? I think the roof was closed.
And he hit a ball.
He hit a ball. I thought it was going to hit that roof. And it still was so high, and it still went way out in center of it. When you take the height and the distance of that ball, you'd straighten it out, probably went 700 feet.
Mm-hmm.
The guy is unbelievable talent-wise.
I look at and I know because like Aaron Boone was it last week or a couple weeks ago was and I get it. He's making the case for his guy, but he's like, you see what yes, Otani does in the National League, but my guy Judge had 100 more OPS points or something like that. And I understand he's got
Oh, they aren't
the
taking nothing away
right.
from Aaron Judge. He's a great player, but I'd take Otani.
The thing that I think for me outside the pitching one, the dude was top 2 in steals on top of the power too.
Oh,
You
yeah.
look at him and you're like, that's not a speedy guy. And yeah, he's a speedy
60-60
guy.
says it all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like all around. And and he's a leadoff DH guy too.
Yeah.
It's unreal. So, and if he gets back to pitching, Jesus, that's unreal. I mean,
Yeah.
at some point though, if he doesn't, do you think he will turn into a position player or just he's going to be a
Well,
hitter?
hasn't he played some? He's played all when he was with the Angels. He was playing in the outfield.
I thought so. Yeah.
Yeah, when he was with the Angels, he played some in the outfield when he wasn't pitching. But the guy can do so much. And so easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he's grinding all the time. He can do it so easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Just only got about 20 seconds to the top. So we'll get back to some more baseball talk coming up next hour. Brewers again tonight, beginning a 4-game series against the Cincinnati Reds. We'll start to take a look at that series and talk a little more baseball. Get back to some more of your texts and comments. You can continue to send those on over to us, 715-830-1912. Quick break. We got some news updates, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. Final hour kicking off on this Thursday morning of April 3rd. A big thanks for tuning in wherever, however you may be tuning in from. Coming up, we'll talk some more baseball with the Brewers in action tonight, taking on the Reds. First game of a 4-game series. First pitch for that game is going to be at 6:40. Nestor Cortes getting his second start for the Crew. Hopefully a bounce-back start from what we saw on Saturday when he was going up against his former ball club, the New York Yankees. Just saw Buster Only tweeted this. Best, worst run differential so far the first week of the Major League Baseball season. Padres best, plus 25. Worst, Brewers, minus 26. Probably not a big surprise. But with the first week in the it's 1 week from since opening day last Thursday. What's kind of been the big storyline, or what's been your first impressions? It doesn't have to necessarily be from your favorite team. It could just be Major League Baseball in general or a different team, whatever the case may be. What has been some of your first impressions with the first week of the Major League Baseball season now here? You can hit us up with those texts or comments on the video stream. If we get any good ones, we'll bring those up on the air in just a little bit. But back to the Brew Crew. Brewers picking up a W, or excuse me, Brewers back in. Yeah, well, they picked up a win yesterday in extra innings behind Freddie Peralta and his solid start. 8 innings, 8 strikeouts, and no walks again for strikeout Freddie. So back-to-back solid performances from Freddie Peralta in his first 2 games of the season. Now, let's see if we can get Nestor Cortes to bounce back from his start from last Saturday against his former team, the New York Yankees. The Reds coming to town here. Also looking to get back in the win column, coming off of a loss yesterday. Both the Brewers and Reds sitting there at 2-4 on the season.
Disappointing would it have been if they hadn't won yesterday after that performance in the 10th inning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would have been very depressing to lose a game. But the bottom line is they didn't, because Terang laid down a beautiful bunt. But can't do that. With nobody out, you can't strike out twice and hit pop flies in the infield. You've got to move the ball.
Yeah, cool story. Afterwards, Pat Murphy was right before Terang went up to hit, and the Royals came out and obviously talking game planning and such, what to do. And Pat Murphy went out to the batters on deck circle and was talking to Terang and told Terang, like, let's bunt here. And Murphy told him what pitch was going to come, and it worked out to a T what Murphy said it was going to be. Murphy said it's going to be a breaking ball. And so he called it right away, and it was a beautifully laid. I mean, old school baseball players had to appreciate that play.
Yeah, you really did. I mean, but how much more did that cement Murphy as your leader by coming out, telling him what it was going to be? We're going to bunt. We're going to win the game. I mean, kudos to Murphy. That's leadership.
Yeah. So and Terang had said that he was thinking about laying down the bunt, but once Pat Murphy came out and talked to him a little bit, he's like, "Yep, okay, we're going to do that." So, but and that's where you want. I think we appreciate sometimes a manager just going with his gut, right? Not necessarily all the analytics and, do this, do that, and that, but to lay down a bunt in that situation, and a perfect bunt, it was perfect. So
yeah, it's a good way to end the game after the disappointment of the inning before. I mean, you just can't do that. It's just, give kudos to the pitcher, but boy, oh boy, you got to get better at bats.
I'm trying to find the exact quote without having to bring it up here, but yeah, go check it out if you could find the story with Murphy and Terang over there. And good for Terang too, who was, throughout the early parts of the season. I mean, he's having a nice season, but was struggling yesterday. He had 3 strikeouts, so to end it with a walk-off bunt. I just like saying walk-off bunt because we don't get to say walk-off bunt too much.
Not very often, that's for sure.
But yeah, pretty cool. So, but also, you look at Freddie Peralta, 8 innings, 2 hits, 1 run, 8 strikeouts without a walk, 19 whiffs in total from yesterday's game. And you look at the start that he's had, and I think, in the offseason before the season began, Freddie Peralta, and I still had questions too, like, is he a legit number one? And we're just 2 games into it, but I felt like there was still, okay, can we see Freddie for this season take it up another step, move up another notch to being, maybe a legit number one starter? You got to like what you've seen from him so far, 2 games of this season, I would imagine, from Freddie Peralta.
Oh, absolutely. And it's just like I think I was the game. I think I went to 4 or 5 games last year in Milwaukee. I think he pitched a couple of them, and he's going good. He's going good. He's going good, and all of a sudden, something goes wrong.
Has that 1 inning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And you got to get over that to be a number one. And I think in his first 2 starts this year, he's showing that maybe he is maturing so he can get over some of those one rough inning that can ruin the whole outing. And hopefully he can continue that trend because he's been a number one so far this year.
Yeah. And if he can continue to do, I'm not expecting him to go 8 innings in every single game here, but I mean, if this is a guy that can keep that pitch count down and go 7 innings, consistently or deeper into games, that does move him up that 1 notch to where maybe we start viewing him as a legit number one, but not issuing a walk in 2 starts too.
No, that's a big deal. If you don't put somebody on, you don't put pressure on the defense with nobody on base. There's no pressure on the defense. You don't walk them. It's just a shame that they're not giving him the support. So, so he should be 2-0.
He should be 2-0 instead of 0-1 right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know, that's the downer of it all. It's, and I know we pay a lot of attention to wins and losses, but he absolutely deserves to be 2-0 with how he's in. Because that's how a lot of people will probably, I know we're getting a little too far down, but, like all-star games and such, when you get to recognition on that, a lot of people pay attention to those numbers, even though it's not maybe necessarily the right way to tell the whole story, but that's how people are going to pay attention to it.
People are, but the thing is the pitchers are picked a lot by the manager that wins, and those managers know, some guy might be, by all-star game, might be 10-1, but boy, he's just been, every game they've scored 7 or 8 runs for him. A guy like Peralta, where he's pitched as well as he has, his team doesn't score so many runs. So I think the pitching gets recognized more by the managers than maybe some of the position players. Position players, they've got gaudy numbers. They're going to get voted in. But the pitchers, I think the managers that are managing the All-Star game, I think they have more of an appreciation for the total performance, not the result.
Yeah, and, but pitchers still want wins on their resume.
Absolutely. There's no question about it.
It may not, I would agree, like, it's more about quality starts than that, but, if I was a pitcher, I'd be like, I still want wins on my record.
Oh, yeah, Peralta would say, yeah, I should be 2-0, not 0-1. I'm sure he'll tell you that. And, the guys on his team have to realize that, hey, you got to support this guy.
Yeah. Yep.
And not they're not trying, but it's just not working that way so far for the first 2 starts.
And, that's sometimes that happens when you got going, if Freddie's the number one guy, he's probably going to be going up against the number one guy from the other team in a lot of starts.
Yeah.
So
I think they're going to have to get used to that because the Brewers didn't make the moves we all thought they were going to make and should have made over the offseason to bring in some bats. They didn't make any major effort at all. Bringing back Rhys Hoskins, that's not much. And I see from Kansas City, that Mark Canha played with the Brewers here. Canha, he's with Kansas City now. And, these guys aren't going to be Hall of Fame sluggers, but when they get hot, they can carry a team for a few days. But the Brewers made none of those moves. And so that's what you're struggling with.
Got a text. Where did it go? Where did our text? I got too many windows open up. John says, could you say that Ohtani and Judge are the best modern day baseball rivalry, kind of like McGuire and Sosa? I guess I never really thought about it as a rivalry, though.
No, I never thought of it as a rivalry because they're in different leagues. Cubs and the Cardinals were playing each other.
And you had the home run chase,
exactly,
sort of thing going on. So,
and and they're both the leading home run hitters in their respective leagues, but they're not against each other like Sosa and McGuire were.
Yeah. And I guess I still view rivalry as like, is there this, I don't want to say hate, but you know what I'm getting at? Like, okay, I want to really beat up that,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
trying to like the individual. What are the best individual, not team, but are there individual rivalries out there anymore in any sport when you think about it?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if you got, in the NFL, you get
Because I don't
a
like,
wide receiver and a cornerback.
yeah,
They'll
like
kind of
Dion
lip
and
off.
Jerry back in the
They'll
day.
kind of
Yeah.
lip off to each other,
Yep.
and then they play, and you'll see what happens. But I don't really
Dennis
think you have
Rodman and
that.
Karl Malone back
Yeah,
in.
yeah, back in the day. But you don't really have that anymore right now. I'm thinking through any sport, football still
Mhm.
have the wide receivers and the cornerbacks, but in basketball, I don't see that so much.
Because
I,
like in football, when they try to do the quarterback thing, like I always like to shake my head. Quarterbacks don't play against each other. But I get why they
yeah.
do it. It's like, well, it's Peyton versus Brady again, and they'll be the first one to say we don't play against each other. We play against the defense. But I get it. I understand the reasoning. But yeah, you think about it. I mean, what is the best like player rivalry? Like mono v mono right now. I don't. Not even in golf, really. I don't think there is. Is there?
No, I don't think so either right now.
I'm trying. I'm sure there's got to be something, but I can't think of it right now.
It's the age of being nice, I guess. I don't, you don't have a defensive lineman versus an offensive lineman type of situation, or even in basketball centers, because you don't have a traditional center, like it used to be Wilt and Bill Russell,
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you don't have that anymore because you don't have positions are changing.
Yeah. I mean, even maybe not the biggest one, but I mean, there was Jordan Clyde. Remember the whole like Clyde the Glide Drexler sort of thing, but Jordan tried to make a rivalry out of anything. So, but, or Isaiah Thomas and Jordan might be a better one just because of that. But yeah, I'm trying to think. For as individual,
Moses Malone and Jordan in the playoffs. Remember that?
yeah,
Because Malone got the MVP.
or Karl Malone.
Or Karl Malone.
Yeah.
And he got the MVP that year. And Jordan says, is he the MVP or am I the MVP? And Jordan showed, that's what motivated Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if Malone was into that rivalry or not, but that was a rivalry that Jordan created. But you don't see players like even LeBron, as great as he is, you don't see him challenging other players.
Like who's LeBron's rival when you think about it?
Should be a guy like Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
But Kevin Durant is so quiet and so
or Steph Curry or something,
Yeah. And but they're such different players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you enjoy watching both, but for the excitement of a game over the years, receiver to fur, who's more exciting to watch, Steph Curry or LeBron James? You watched Steph Curry in the Olympics. I mean, that was jump out of your seat exciting to watch. And, LeBron doesn't play that kind of basketball. Steph Curry, he'll throw it in from what they saw the other night. I saw on TV, he was down off the court on the other end.
That was fake.
Oh, that was fake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The angle of the camera.
Oh, okay.
He airballed it and just hit the net underneath it. So it made it look like he made it.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But still fun to watch.
Okay, so you'd rather watch Steph Curry than LeBron?
Yep.
I'd rather watch LeBron. But I don't like transition threes and threes all the time. I get it. Like, okay, that's what the kids want to do.
There's a three and there's Steph Curry threes.
But I hate it.
Well,
I hate it because it's ruining basketball.
Well, it's not ruining basketball.
Yes, it is.
That hasn't ruined basketball.
It's ruined the fundamentals of basketball.
Well, maybe so, but still in all, you got guys nowadays that can do things that guys 25, 30 years ago could never do.
I would agree with that, but I don't think it's seeing it firsthand when I see second graders want to be Steph Curry instead of working on layups and inside game, chucking up with one hand and all that. I hate that. But
that's where the game is going. You even look at high school and college.
Oh, no, I know.
That 3-point line, without that 3-point line, the game is different. It's a different game.
I
agree with you. They don't teach fundamentals.
No.
They don't, but and I don't necessarily like it that much either. But you got to admit, it's fun to watch Steph Curry from where he can throw the ball. It's just like watching Caitlin Clark when she was at Iowa. I mean, she changed the game. Steph Curry has changed the game.
Oh, he's 100% changed the game, but not for the good.
Well,
because I hate it. I hate it.
You
give
hate
me my
it?
give me
You
my
hate it,
turnaround,
but
Jordan.
It's bringing money into the game. It's making the NBA. It's making the NBA a lot of money.
Making them money, but maybe not necessarily a lot of fans with viewerships and such.
Oh, I don't watch it like I used to.
Yeah.
There's no question. It's not.
There's a lot of
it's
things
not
with
a
the
team
NBA
game.
I can't watch.
Oh, it's not a team game at all.
No.
I mean, it's and it is. It's just wild, out of control basketball. You know, what's traveling, what's a foul. It's hard to watch.
Mm-hmm. Would you rather watch Giannis or Steph? Take away the homerism.
Probably Steph.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I what he can do is unbelievable.
You don't want to watch a little Euro step and
the Euro step. I think the Euro step has ruined basketball. I don't like the Euro step. I think that's ruined basketball.
What is a Euro step?
Well, that's a good question. That's a good question. What is it? Because you watch it. Like I just took 3 steps, say, oh, there's a Euro step. Well, that's an excuse for traveling.
I feel bad for like high school officials and college ones because those kids are trying it and doing it. Some of these officials probably been officiating for a long time, and now they got to adjust to like, okay, they got to learn what a Euro step is and that. So, yeah, I don't envy those guys or gals that have to do that
because traveling has changed. What we grew up playing, and when you travel now. No, you're allowed to land and take that step and whatever it is. But no, I agree with you. I think the officials to try and get it right or get it consistent is tough.
Yeah. Shooting mid-range is not cool anymore. You got to shoot the 3. So that's just me being the old man in the front yard saying, give me back my 15, 17 footers instead of the 35 footers.
But 35 footers will win the game. That's the thing. You exchange basket for basket for basket, but if the other team shooting 3s and you're shooting 2s, all of a sudden you're 6-8 points behind, and you both made the same number of baskets. I think the 3 has changed the game the wrong way too.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's why I think it's stupid that there's a talk like, 4-point line. I'm like, no, they are. No, I mean, the 3-point line's already like a 2-pointer for as easy as some of these guys do.
Exactly.
We don't need
I'll go back to old school, and I'm surprised maybe somebody's done it. I haven't seen it. I don't know if you've seen it. If they had the line out there, they superimposed that line.
For Havlicek?
No.
Or
Pete
Maravich. Pete Maravich.
For Maravich. How
Pistol
many
Pete.
points would he have scored in college? Because for how many years he was still a leading scorer, even many years after the 3-point line came in, and he's still leading scorer. I mean, the guy was unbelievable. Maybe the greatest class ever. Pete Maravich and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the same class.
Some estimates suggest. You ready for this? If Pistol Pete Maravich had played with the 3-point line, which was adopted by the NCAA in 1986, some estimates suggest he would have averaged around 57 points per game, a significant increase from his actual 44.2 points per game.
Yeah, with a 2-point shot, he still averaged over 44 points.
Jeez. And I feel like people forget about people forget about that. Or they don't know about it.
Oh, yeah.
They for crying out loud. 44.2 point with no 3-pointers, people. Yeah. Pistol Pete was freaking awesome.
Yeah, go back and watch him. I mean, the way he handled the ball, he never went any place without a basketball, at home or school or whatever. And the basketball was just part of him.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, I'm telling you what, he was fun to watch.
Yeah, not just a shooter. You're right, because I mean, an elite dribbler.
Oh, elite dribbler, elite passer. He was something else.
Man, yeah, I know there were some estimates, but yeah, if somebody wants to sit down and if they got all the film and try to figure that out, we got the technology to do that.
Oh, I would think so nowadays, and there are enough nerds around that would do that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah, if I still loved basketball the way I did in the 90s, I might be one of those guys that would do that, but I can't. It's tough to watch NBA right now for me.
Oh, I agree with you. It is.
Basketball in just general, it's tough to watch at times. Like I don't know, but I might be in the minority on that, but
Well,
give me my.
I'm with you. I don't enjoy the NBA like I used to because there's not the teamwork. They're not really running any kind of an offense. It's just, and you watch the game, the guy in the middle has got the ball. Might be one guy screening for him, and the other three guys are standing on the side outside the 3-point line because he's going to drive and dish. That's the offense now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not fun to watch.
Yeah. That's why, like, I know I used to be this way, but I've over the last few years have changed it because I know what LeBron said, was it last week or the week before on Pat McAfee, tried to say, LeBron, or if Giannis played in the 70s, he'd, average how many points per game in that. And I appreciated Giannis's response to it by saying, I appreciate, the shout out or the credit of that, but he's like, but you can't compare eras, and don't want, and I don't think you can compare eras
I
anymore.
don't think you can either, because I look at some of the guys that were considered great when I was young, guys you've heard of but you never saw play, like a guy like Bob Pettit,
Mm-hmm.
played for the old St. Louis team. He'd be lost in the NBA,
Mm-hmm.
and he was an all-time great because of when he played.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's a different era. The attention to the detail, they're starting younger. They're getting much more exposure to the game. I mean, like Jerry Lucas from Ohio State. He was one of the best ever. Won a national championship, went in to play with the Knicks, but he couldn't play today.
And that's the thing, is like, obviously a lot of these guys in any sport could easily play in the other eras. They're bigger, they're faster, they can dedicate their time to the sport 365 days a year. And that's a disservice to say that to the other, because could Bart Starr play in today's NFL? Probably not, right? Probably not, with his arm strength and all that. But that's not fair to say that, because you really can't compare the eras.
You can't, and it's not fair. That's why they say the all-time greats. The games have matured. All the games have matured differently over the years.
Yeah.
So what an all-time great was back in the 30s and 40s, and
like Don Hudson would be a perfect example of that. Was really, a great, still one of the best ones. But like when I talked to Peter King about it, he's like, he compared it a little bit to Babe Ruth. He was the best of his generation, and that's how you have to compare it. I don't know how good Don Hudson would be in 2025 when you got receivers who are now 6'5" and they run a 4.3 40, But it's just, you can't. You can't. It's a fun barroom debate, but it does a disservice, I think, to the older players back in the day.
Yeah, because the game was different. It's so fundamental. Now it's gotten so technical, and the rules are different now too.
Yeah.
You look at what a defensive back can do now versus what they could do back then. That's a lot of difference.
Night Train Lane, for crying out loud, back in the day.
And you look at the wide receivers, the latitude the offenses have now in the NFL versus what they had years ago. That's why you had so many ground games, because the defensive backs could literally maul the receivers out there.
Yep.
And now you can't do that.
Right.
That makes a difference.
Oh yeah. And some of those quarterbacks, some of the hits they would take, and now they get all the extra protection in the world.
Yep.
You lay a fingernail on them and you get a flag. So, yeah, I'll admit it. Like, I used to get in the whole debate about who's the best, and the last few years, I'm like, nah, you got to do it by eras or generations. No. It's different.
And that's why what appeals to you in the game, the NBA game, that is hard to watch now, but what appeals to you, I still appreciate the talent that these guys have, because the way they can jump and shoot and everything else is remarkable. But Steph Curry is still a guy that amazes me, that can, the size he is, and to be one of the greatest players of all time in that league, because he's not the highest jumper, he's, anything like that, but he's going to be he's the greatest shooter of all time. And he can literally shoot it from any place, including half court. He just is. And so that's why for me, he's fun to watch. And
he's definitely fun to watch.
And I like to watch, because after that before that, he was exceptional. But after that performance in the Olympics, anybody that says he's not the greatest shooter of all time,
So when we talk about like the best of all time, instead of just saying is Michael Jordan the best of all time or is LeBron the best of all time, do we have to ask it this way? Who was better during their who was more dominant during their era?
I think that's a point to bring up,
You
and
know,
Jordan definitely was.
yeah,
If he hadn't been suspended, if he hadn't quit,
suspended.
catch myself
Yeah.
here. If he hadn't quit for a couple of years to play baseball, he might have won eight or
Mhm.
nine championships in a row, like Bill Russell and
Yeah.
the Celtics did. He was that good and that dominant.
Mhm.
And LeBron, talent wise, yeah, but
Was he
it,
better in his era than Jordan was better in his era? I would say no.
no, I would too. I'd agree with
No.
you. Talent wise, yeah, but I just Jordan just willed it.
Yeah.
And the guys that played with him caught that willing need to win.
Mhm.
Because you look at some of the guys that he played with, Paxson and some of these guys, they were just average players. But when you played with Jordan, you made the game winning shot. You played the defense you needed to play. It just, they're different players. Talent wise, there's not much difference.
I
But
know this.
above the shoulders is where I think the difference was with Jordan.
Yep. And there was this, in my opinion, just in my opinion, there was this different mindset back then too. Whereas you've got all these guys wanting to play on the same team. I would struggle to see, back then, hey, Patrick Ewing wants, I'm sure Patrick Ewing would have loved maybe to have played with Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan, you're not going to see Karl Malone and Michael Jordan and Patrick Ewing tag team on a team. It was like, I want to beat those guys.
Well, Jordan was the
Yes, he had
alpha.
Pippen, but still, it's,
Jordan was the alpha male.
yeah.
You look at the centers that played Luke Longley and
Bill Wellington and Will Purdue.
all those guys. They weren't very good, but when they played with Jordan, they were pretty good.
Yep.
Rodman could do one thing, and that was rebound and,
Mhm.
and beat people up. But and I think Pippen, the greatest player as Pippen was, I think Jordan made him one of the better players of all time. And you look at some of the other guys that he played with,
Steve Kerr.
He made them all better.
Mm-hmm.
And
Ron Harper.
Ron Harper. And I don't think, I don't know if we can say that about LeBron, because he went in there, when he went to Miami, he went to players that were already stars in the league. I don't think LeBron made those players any better. It's just that, okay, now we've got another all-time great player with great players that are already there. You look at, outside of Jordan and Pippen, there aren't many memorable players that played on those Bulls teams. Rodman is a memorable player, but because he was Rodman.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think Jordan made those guys better.
Yeah, because, those are the only 3 Hall of Fame players on those teams, right?
Yeah.
Is Kukoc in the Hall of Fame, though, for maybe international stuff?
Oh, maybe he is. I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame or not. But in Kukoc, yeah, he knew his position. He knew his fit with the Bulls. He didn't try to be the alpha male.
Mm-hmm.
There were games where, I got to score 20, I got to score 25. But, Jordan, everybody knew Jordan was still the leader. I don't, like on the Miami teams, LeBron is considered the best player, but was he the leader of that team that they completely depended upon?
Or
I don't
still
think
Dwayne
so.
Wade's?
Yeah,
because they were coming to Dwayne Wade's house.
Yeah, exactly.
But, all right, we got to take a quick break. Ran a little longer, but that's okay. We'll be back here in just a few minutes. You know what season it is? It's pothole season, and potholes mean loose debris on the road that kicks up and hits your windshield, leaving that lovely crack in your windshield. So now what? What do you do? Simple. Give a call to the experts at Post Glass and Mirror, where their specialists will quickly repair chips and cracks to your windshield. You can trust the fine folks at Post Glass and Mirror in Chippewa Falls to get you back to safe driving by repairing that cracked windshield. Give them a call today at 715-229-3754 or simply visit them online at postglassandmirror.com. Since we went a little long and we got picks coming up here and we were talking a little bit about players back in the day, and we've kind of did a version of this before in the past, but you're old, Bob, so you've seen a lot of guys.
Getting older every day.
You've seen a lot of players, but is there any athlete that you wish that you never got to see? Doesn't have to be like in person or, it could be like on TV or that, but somebody that what outside of your life frame, that, and maybe not like, because I mean, Babe Ruth is going to be an easy one for a lot of people, but maybe not like a Babe Ruth, but maybe a little bit of an under the radar type player. Because I'll tell you, like, I'm reading a book on him right now. Like, one guy I would just love to have a conversation with outside of the Lombardis in that, Lou Gehrig. Like, to me, like, Lou Gehrig is obviously probably the best first baseman of all time in Major League Baseball, a fantastic hitter. But then obviously we know what happened with his life in that too.
I'm the luckiest man.
Yeah. To have a conversation with that guy, like, I mean, on the top of the world, to, playing for the Yankees and one of the best baseball players of all time. And then with ALS and that too, that to me would have been somebody I would love to like have a 15-minute conversation with.
Yeah, he's a good one. I never thought about that, to tell you the truth. But, I've seen a lot of these guys. I never, I saw him live. I never saw Jordan live.
I never did either.
Never saw. And I would really love to have a conversation with Kareem because he and I are the same age, and thinks differently. But I would like to have a conversation with Kareem. I really would. And I don't know what we talk about, but I would love to sit down and just chat with him, see what he thinks about the world.
Is there a baseball player? Because I know baseball is your bread and butter. Like, way, Honus Wagner or Ty Cobb or something like. Is there anybody from way back baseball wise?
Warren Spahn. I was
always
impressed with Warren Spahn. The ability, the little guy that he was, and the things he could do, not only pitching, but he was a heck of a hitter. And, you never heard much about him. His record speaks for itself, but he was never controversial. I don't know much about Warren Spahn. I really don't know much about Warren Spahn outside of the fact that he was a great pitcher for the Milwaukee Braves, and he was a great hitter, and he would have been a guy I would like to talk to Stan Musial.
Yeah.
I would like to get his philosophy of hitting. Not so much Ted Williams, because I think, and this is just my outside observation looking in, Ted Williams seemed like kind of an odd duck. I mean, he served in the military, was a warplane pilot, and but I'd like to talk to Stan Musial, among the great hitters. I had enough exposure to Henry Aaron over the years, watching him play and hearing his sound bites, and Willie Mays, but not so much Stan Musial. I saw him play a few times in Milwaukee when I was a kid, and he just seemed like a great guy. I'd love to have had a chance to talk to him.
Yeah, it's like whenever baseball season kind of rolls around and I just get in this baseball mood. But yeah, I just started, and I always wanted to read it, but there was a book about Lou Gehrig that I just started the other day. And I just like, you think about that guy's life, and it's hard for me to comprehend somebody who was essentially maybe at the top of the world, and then obviously life cut way, way, way too short with a disease that doesn't allow him to do what he's really good at, and that was hitting in baseball and playing the Iron Man, for crying out loud. And it's just, yeah, I wanted to learn more, so I'm in the middle of that right now. So, and that's always like kind of got me thinking, like, man, who are some of the players that I never got to like see alive or outside of my lifetime, and he's definitely towards the top there.
Yeah, and because nowadays we know everything about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
There's no mystery to these guys. We know who they are, what they do in their off time.
We know what restaurant they're eating at probably at any time.
Yeah, exactly. The paparazzi follows them. The media, they themselves get on social media and share a lot of things. And so there are not a lot of mystery men or mystery women out there anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so you've got to go back to when we didn't have all this media to find guys or women, whoever, some of the Babe Didriksons of Harrius and some of those women of the old times would have been great to talk to as well.
Yep.
So Amelia Earhart would have been neat to talk to, but she wasn't necessarily an athlete, but, the pilot.
But still, yeah.
But there are a lot of people of that era that you would like to have talked to. You hear enough about them, people write about them, but can they capture the real essence that you could get in a one-to-one conversation?
That's why I love reading old newspaper sports stories, because those writers had to paint that picture when there was like no TV. You had the radio, but they had to paint that picture of what it was like watching it.
Oh, Grantland Rice, the four horsemen of the plain, from Notre Dame. And it was just the way they did it. It was, and even when we didn't have television, everything's on television now, but even the old time baseball announcers, you can go make a list of those guys. The last great one, Bob Uecker, but before that, Vin Scully, Bob Prince, Harry Carey, Jack Buck. I could go on, and Bob Prince, did I say him? Just so many that could really not only call the game, but tell the story of the game itself and the characters in the game. You don't have that anymore. You've got people that are trained announcers, and they're very good, but they're different from what their predecessors did as far as painting the picture of the game on radio. I don't think they do that near as well. I mean, you get the game, the nuts and bolts of the game, and they're very good speakers, but they don't have the down. Dizzy Dean and Pee Wee Reese used to do the NBC Game of the Week on Saturday. I used to like to watch that just to listen to old Diz, and he'd sit there, and he was a lot like Uecker because he pitched, obviously, with the St. Louis, and, he could tell stories. You might go 2 innings, and he didn't call a play, but he was telling stories about baseball and guys in baseball. You don't have that anymore.
Could have really, I know I said it on Monday, but that Yankee series was bad. Could have used Uecker telling some stories for a couple of those games.
Well, that's why when I was overseas in Australia and New Zealand the last 2 or 3 weeks, and my phone popped up one time, and I started laughing to myself because it said, the Brewers are down 2 touchdowns. What? But, so I wasn't following the game, but just that popped up. The Brewers are down 2 touchdowns in this game. So I thought, oh boy, rocky start to the season. So it's, but now everything is, you can't get away from it now. Everything is in the media, social media or podcasts or whatever it is. But we don't have the colorful
right here.
people.
Yeah, phones that have the cameras and
your device, that device. It's not even called a phone anymore. They call it the device. And you do. And so but that's what these announcers are told. Just call the game. Just call the game. Can you imagine if somebody would have said to Uecker, just call the game? I mean, it's granted he would have done it himself anyway. But that's what they're told to do now. Just call the game. And they're good at calling the game. I won't take anything away from them, but they're not near as colorful as they used to be.
Nope. All right. Let's take our break, and we'll do some picks and predicts, including Brewers back at it tonight. Bucks are also in action tonight. So got a few games to pick. We'll do that as we wrap up things in just a few minutes. Wrapping up things with some picks and predicts. Brought to you by the Elbow Room located in Eau Claire, right next to the Banbury Place. So if you're again looking for somewhere to watch some of these games and enjoy a nice beverage, you can head on over to the Elbow Room. Let's start off with a little NBA action before we get to some baseball games to pick here. We've got Minnesota taking on Brooklyn. Who you got?
Minnesota.
Yeah, I'll go T-Wolves too. Let's do Golden State visiting the Lakers.
I'm going to take the Lakers. I don't think Golden State's got enough firepower. Just don't have enough.
Mm-hmm.
And if everybody plays, I mean, if LeBron plays, and how do you feel Doncic has fit into the Lakers?
I think he's fit in really well.
I watched him a couple of games, and it's kind of like LeBron is kind of taking a little bit of a back seat to Luka.
Mm-hmm.
Letting Luka dictate more of the game than LeBron does, and it doesn't seem like LeBron's worried about that or bothered by it. But they haven't changed Luka's game. He still seems to control the ball, take those long shots. He's aware. I think he's aware more of his teammates because one of his teammates is LeBron. But I think they've worked out pretty well together. I think LeBron has kind of bit his tongue, so to speak, not being the alpha male there. Everybody knows he still is, but I think he's accepting the fact that Luka is Luka, and if you're going to win with him, you got to let him play his game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We also got Milwaukee taking on the 76ers.
They better win that. If they don't win that game,
mm-hmm.
I mean, with Embiid gone, they've got to win. I mean, Philadelphia, it'll be a good game, I'm sure, but they've got to beat Philadelphia.
Yeah, they better.
Even though they don't have Dame.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm going to go Milwaukee, but they better get it done. So let's do some baseball picks because it's baseball season here. Before we get to the Brewers one, let's do some other picks here. We've got, and it's not a full slate, just a few, but Boston visiting Baltimore.
I haven't followed Baltimore this year, or Boston.
Slow start, yeah.
I haven't seen how they've started,
Boston's
but I'll take Baltimore because I think Boston's on the come, so to speak, building their roster back. But I think I'll take Baltimore.
I'm gonna go. I'll go Boston. No, I'll go Baltimore. Baltimore. Charlie Moore's in the mound. So, Colorado, Philly.
Philly. Where are they playing?
In Philly.
Yeah, okay.
So, Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Yankees. Arizona's won the first couple.
Yeah, but I'll take the Yankees. I don't think they'll sweep the Yankees.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go Yankees too. So, Houston at Minnesota.
Beautiful place to be in this time of the year playing baseball outside. I'll take Minnesota just because it's a beautiful place to be this time of the year playing baseball outside. And if you're from Houston, you're not used to playing in this kind of weather.
Yeah, I'll go Minnesota too. I like that theory. And then we've got Cincinnati taking on Milwaukee.
I'm going to take Cincinnati until the Brewers start to hit more. I can't have a lot of confidence in them, so I'm taking Cincinnati.
I don't have a lot of confidence right now in Nestor Cortez. So
yeah, well, that's true, in Nestor Cortez, but Brewers got to start hitting better.
You know, the thing's going to keep out there, keep popping up if they can't consistently do it, but it's another left-handed pitcher they're going up against. And if they're going to continue to struggle to go up against left-handed pitching, so I'm going to go with the Reds tonight too. Hope I'm wrong.
Oh, so do I. I'm rooting for the Brewers, but reality is reality. Until you change the theme you're playing under, you gotta expect there'll be more of the same.
Yep. So, but all right, those are some picks and predicts for this morning. I will ask you. I'm going to do mine tomorrow, but your final 4 picks. Who you got going?
I think Auburn and Duke will win, and I think Auburn will then beat Duke in the championship game.
Well, if that happens, Hudson wins the bracket then. So
Hudson and I think alike.
How about the women's side? Is it going to set up for UConn and South Carolina, you think?
That's my thought. And I think UConn can win that game. I'm going to take UConn. Even though there are 3 number 1s, UConn's the number 2. Whether it would have got there with Juju Watkins that played for Southern Cal, I don't know, but that's not something we have to worry about because it didn't happen. UConn won. I think Paige Becker is going to have, from Minnesota,
Yep.
is going to have an outstanding Final Four.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Paige is going to end her collegiate career on a high note, possibly. So, but yeah, Minnesota native too. Really quick, Badgers got a new women's basketball coach, and there's not a lot of fanfare with it, with Iron, because she's coming from Missouri, where Missouri didn't do a whole lot in the last few years. But they had their introductory presser the other day, and Chris McIntosh said they are going to invest, NIL into that women's basketball program and such. But it's been a long time since they've been successful. They're not the best one in the state. UW Green Bay holds that title.
Oh,
and
yeah.
they've held it for a long time.
They've got to do that. I don't know who this coach is. Is it a man or a woman?
It's a woman. Yep.
So, which makes no difference, but I didn't know if it was a man or a woman. But I think, too, where was South Carolina before Dawn Staley came down there? They weren't much. They brought in a named coach who was successful. And I think that's what you've got to have at this point with this Badger program, because you're just recycling coaches that are good coaches. But Wisconsin is not a women's basketball factory by any way, shape, or form. So I don't expect that program's going to improve.
Mm-hmm.
I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how. I think you've got to bring in a name coach that can bring in kids. And again, you got to get them in school. The academics play a part here.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about NIL and transferring here and transferring there, but you still, at schools like Wisconsin and Michigan and some of the other top academic schools in the Big Ten, you still got to be able to get them into school.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be a challenge. But I don't know this coach. I hope she's successful. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure McIntosh's tenure with the coaches he selected recently, the only good decision he's made so far, and everything's subject to change, the only good decision he's made so far is to keep Greg Gard.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And so, and I was just quickly, when I was in New Zealand, in Christchurch, New Zealand here, 4, 5, 6 days ago, sitting, having a sandwich and a beer, there were some young kids that came in, and we looked and said, those kids don't look like they're old enough to be out of grade school, and they're here in a bar drinking. Well, we went over and talked to them, and they were actually first-year college students, and we were talking about being from Wisconsin. They said, a couple of our best friends are going to play for Wisconsin in the next couple of years from New Zealand. So one's coming this year, one's coming next year, so I'm looking forward to seeing those kids from New Zealand. But I think the Kirk Penny situation, being from Australia and recruiting that part of the world, hopefully that'll pay off. So we'll see what that's all about. But that was kind of interesting. As soon as we said we're from Wisconsin, my buddies are going over there to play basketball. So the two best players in New Zealand the next couple of years are, at this point in time, locked in to come to Wisconsin. So hopefully that'll bode well for the Badgers.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got a little experience playing pro ball too. So hopefully that they'll be able to pick up right where we don't have to sit them and worry about transfer portals because they didn't play or anything like that. So, but I was kind of hoping, and I don't know, maybe Robin Pinchton will work out. She's the coach for Wisconsin, but part of me was wondering, do you need to get somebody who knows Wisconsin basketball, maybe go with the Bo Ryan route for women's basketball, because we've got some really good D3 teams. UW Oshkosh, Stout went to the Final Four this year too.
Well, you look at great players from Wisconsin. They're going to Iowa. They're leaving the state, which we're seeing the erosion of the football talent now. I don't know how much Fickle is aligning himself with the high school coaches in Wisconsin. That's what Barry did. The first thing he did is Barry Alvarez came in and he made friends with all these guys, and he more or less told them, directed them, send your kids to Madison.
Yep.
We're going to have a winning football program. But I don't know. We haven't had that in women's basketball. They haven't had a program down there, and all these kids are going someplace else. There are a lot of good young girl basketball players from Wisconsin that are not staying in the state to play for the Badgers. Now, they might be playing for Stevens Point or something, but that's a notch lower.
Mm-hmm.
But the Division I players, including the men, we're not keeping a lot of men. I mean, you look at the pros. Halliburton's a pro from Oshkosh, and there are other ones. The kid, second best player on Duke right now, Knavel. He's a star from Wisconsin. They're gone.
Yep. All right. Have a good day. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 6 a.m.